We talk about it all the time here on the show, folks, and maybe you've experienced yourself. It's hard enough these days if you have a business to get a customer. Sometimes it's even tougher to keep the customer. Well, you know what? It might be a whole lot simpler than you imagine, because there's people out there and their whole job is to help you out to keep your customers around. We work so hard to get them. Let's work just a little bit harder to keep them. That's where we are today here on All In, a really unique product I'm excited to share with you. The name of the company is Awesome 3D Cards. Got to learn the name right there. It's a great one. Awesome 3D Cards, Mr. Awesome 3D Cards himself, our guest, Harlow Russell. Harlow, welcome to the show today, sir. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. Nice to be here.
I got to say right off the bat, you're one of the more dapper dressed guests we've had here in studio. I appreciate that.
Well, we're in Texas, so we have to be dapper.
We're in Texas. I got to crank it up just another notch.
Absolutely.
You know, you're in Texas right now. We're going to get into that in a sec, but you have a fascinating backstory because you've done a lot of business actually internationally.
Yes.
Talk to me about, prior to this, what you were doing all around the world.
So, Brian, I lived in Asia for 25 years. Most of my adult life has been outside of the U.S., and the last 4 of those years was in Vietnam, and that's where the art form of my current product comes from.
Wow, so you were out there doing whatever for 25 years, but
Yes.
You kept seeing this art form, and was this business forming in your brain the whole time, thinking someday?
Absolutely not.
Oh, no, okay.
No. So I was in Vietnam 4 years, and I'm very familiar with, it's called kirigami. And I would be bringing back these really cool pop-up cards to friends and family for years, and everybody loved them. But I hadn't thought of a business until I came back to the U.S. and I had an experience that kind of put that in the forefront of doing this.
So there was one thing in particular that inspired you to get into this?
One thing.
I can't lob an easier softball than that. Gosh, Harlow, what was that?
So when I came back to the U.S., I had to get medical insurance. And so I started basically talking with insurance agents. I wanted a product, but I also wanted a relationship. And I finally found an insurance agency, and I bought medical insurance. And as we all know, it's expensive.
Yes.
So they said, Mr. Russell, you're a very important client to us. We really appreciate your business. And they sent me a thank you card. This thank you card.
Okay.
Okay, so this thank you card, let me show you the back.
Yeah,
in case you missed that,
yeah.
That's the front.
I think I got that card.
So this card means I'm very special. Well, I was a little bit disappointed.
Okay.
And I thought, you know, sales is 80% about emotion, 20% about logic. That's not doing it. That's not connecting with me as the customer. But I remember I was in Vietnam, and I thought, what if they sent me a Vietnamese kirigami card? Well, what's kirigami? Well, it might say something like this: heartfelt thanks, and inside a heart pops up.
Thus the 3D deal.
Thus the 3D.
That's
We
beautiful.
really appreciate you. Now, if they had sent me this instead of this, I would have been delighted, impressed, and surprised.
Yeah.
And that was the idea for the company.
Goodness gracious. And then right then, you already had the contacts from your overseas people, if
Yes.
you will.
Yes.
You had your own personal experience. A lot of great companies, by the way, start that very way. Somebody figures out, hey, if somebody else feels this way, if I feel this way, maybe there's other people that feel this way. And you're
Correct.
absolutely right, because I've received that thank you card. Sadly, to be honest, I probably sent that thank you card out before.
Well, you know what we all do with these, oh, that's nice, and we toss it. But if you get something
No,
like
you're hanging on to
this,
that.
you know, you keep it, it's a constant reminder of whoever sent it to you, whether it's a company or a person.
Well, and it's a constant reminder when somebody sees that on your desk. Oh my gosh, you got to see this card. Look at that. Really?
Correct.
Who sent you this? It's
Correct.
another way to build business. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
People
that's
get
how it
that.
started, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. Well, give me a timeline. When did you start this company?
I started this business just about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we're in growth mode, basically working with companies and organizations that are looking for ways to reconnect with their customers, with their prospects, with their employees. And we didn't see COVID coming.
No.
But actually, because of COVID, my business has skyrocketed.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that, Harlow, and here's why. Because obviously, everybody I've interviewed in the last 7 months, we always have to touch on COVID. Most of the stories aren't as exciting as yours. But the whole time you were talking, when you talked about reconnecting with customers, and I want to make sure you caught this, folks, reconnecting with employees, it's the perfect thing for what we're going. How has this been received strictly from a COVID standpoint?
So executives across the North America, any business, anybody who's in business watching this are trying to figure out ways, how do I connect with my employees, particularly those that are now remote? Because there's this huge shift. Well, we feel isolated, we feel disconnected. Well, remember about the mail, direct mail or snail mail, right? Everybody loves to get something in the mail.
Sure.
And if you get something, that this is one of my customers, it's their holiday card, and it's about kindness. And again, what's more simple than a heart message
Absolutely.
to an employee or an associate? So basically, companies are finding snail mail, direct mail as a very powerful channel to re-explore during COVID and perhaps forever, because with employees, their home address. So you have an amazing channel to send something, whether it's my card or something else, that has a nearly 100% open rate.
Absolutely.
And for comparing digital to physical, I'm old-fashioned.
Right.
It's real. There's nothing that compares to a 100% open rate. No email, no social media, nothing. But we all look forward to getting something interesting in the mail, and when you get it, you share it. And it stays, typically. And so that's my business, and that's what's been happening. So I'm an old approach to a new problem. And old is new. So direct mail, but with a twist using, in this case, Asian art form of 3D pop-ups to get that message across and deliver it in a way which is how I wanted this myself, to delight, impress, and surprise.
The other thing too, we're living in an age that I'm old school too, by the way. Maybe you picked up on that. But there's so many people these days, all they've ever received are email.
Correct.
And now, wait a minute, what is this thing in my mailbox? Oh, look at this. It's new to them. You're talking about old is new. Well, to some people, it's absolutely new because they've never seen it. Some people are going to say, I remember when I used to get these. But there's a whole generation out there saying, wow, look at this.
Well, actually, the research shows that millennials and Gen Zs love direct mail because they haven't experienced it. And particularly, this is an example featuring a business jet. When they get something in the mail and they open it, and it pops up, and it's like they've never seen anything like that.
Right.
And they kind of keep, you can watch this. And so the beauty of this kind of work is that whether you're a man or a woman, a CEO, a receptionist, a boomer like us, or a Gen Z, when you open something up like this, you become a little kid again for a minute. You suddenly are in a different experience level, no matter where you're coming from. Suddenly, it's a jack-in-the-box. It's a surprise. How do they do that, right? It folds. So that's been the fun part of this business and the positive energy that all my customers, get and they share, whether they're sending it to their customers or their employees.
That's where I was going to go next, because this just creates a whole cycle. Somebody receives that as your customer, and they say, oh my gosh, I need to get these made for my customer. Then that customer gets it, and that customer gets it. I'm going to send these to my staff. It just feeds on itself because it's so darn creative. And the bottom line is this. Somebody is going to, when they receive something in the mail, they're going to remember the company. How are they going to remember the company? For the flat one that you showed me first, because they're going to remember that company.
Are they going to remember this?
They're going to remember it like you did. Or are they going to remember, they're going to remember this, because it's going to reflect on the company, and you're creating the whole memorable experience for those people to remember that company in the right way that we all want to be remembered.
Absolutely. And especially these days, it's important about connecting. And, whether it's a real cup of coffee or a virtual cup of coffee, but, this is a very popular one, to basically reach out and say, let's connect for real, or maybe, by Zoom or whatever it is.
Folks.
Yeah.
This is Harlow Russell, our guest. You see one that's called Awesome 3D Cards. I mean, the company named itself. Harlow Russell, thank you so much for sharing your backstory, but especially for sharing this one and the fact that there's something good that came out of COVID. We all have a shot. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure to be
folks,
here.
Thank you as well. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.